Now, Ms. Price, you're running for what seat?
I'm running for a United States Senate. It's Jim Bunning's seat.
Okay. Yesterday, the Washington Post reported that there had been 4,380 deaths in Iraq. What's your position on the war in Iraq?
Well, I would like to couple it with my position on the war on Afghanistan. I'm the only candidate in this race who has been on the record staunchly standing up against both of these wars. No one has ever been able to adequately explain at all how we made a quantum leap from a manhunt for Osama bin Laden to these two wars. It cannot be justified. And as a veteran, and I come from a family of veterans, okay, I have 4 generations of veterans in my family, and my son is just last week joined the Navy, and as a veteran, and as a leadership role as a veteran, as a captain, one of the first rules you learn is you do not put troops in the harm's way needlessly. There should be no question before you send a soldier off to die. There should be no question as to why we're in this war. Both of these wars, there are way too many questions. Way too many questions. And first off, the first war, the war in Iraq, I mean, the cat is so out of the bag here. This war was based on fraud. I mean,
yeah, weapons of mass destruction, where are they?
Well, and they also tried to link it to 9/11, and now it's come out. I mean, the proof is overwhelming that this war was never connected to 9/11. The war in Afghanistan. Let's back up here for a minute. I call these two wars Iraq and Afghanistan because the similarities between these two wars and the Vietnam War are amazing. You know, I was a child during the Vietnam War, but it was something that was on my television every night, talked about in my house every night, because my brother was smack dab in the middle of the Vietnam War. And I remember a lot of things that went on there, and I've studied this immensely. Let's look at the history of this. You know, here we were, propping up a leader, and a corrupt leader at that, in a corrupt area that the locals didn't want, and here we are again. It's the same situation. The article is How the U.S. Funds the Taliban. And pull that up and Google that. It's called How the U.S. Funds the Taliban. One incident of how we're throwing millions and millions of dollars into these so-called subcontractors in Afghanistan, which are really the Taliban. Basically,
Wait a minute.
Right, exactly. This guy went undercover and he exposed this. And this is just one instance of one subcontractor that we're throwing millions of dollars away, and we're feeding the Taliban that we're supposed to be fighting. Here's what happened.
So we've got federal dollars going to international terrorists, if we call the Taliban terrorists, one
and by the way,
terrorist is another man's freedom fighter.
Right,
so.
Exactly. And we've forgotten that the Taliban didn't attack us on 9/11. Al-Qaeda did. They do not need a country to operate.
Most of the 9/11 terrorists, weren't they from Saudi Arabia?
Right. Not only that,
and we're not in war with Saudi Arabia, are we?
No. Okay. Of course, because they have oil.
I didn't know there's a war. If we started another war, I didn't know about it because this one's been going on how many years?
Yeah, exactly.
How many years?
9/11 took place in an apartment complex in Germany. That's where most of the planning for 9/11 took place. But we still don't have boots in the ground in Germany. Most of Al-Qaeda right now, there are more Al-Qaeda operatives in Europe and in Indonesia and in Pakistan than in Afghanistan. There's almost none in Afghanistan, but still we're here fighting a war. Somebody explain that to me. They can't.
It's like the Russians got their butt kicked in Afghanistan. And look what happened. Well, no, I'm sorry. The Soviet Union got its butt kicked in Afghanistan. Okay? And now it's a whole new country. Can we learn somebody else's hard knocks mistakes?
Right. We didn't learn, which we're recreating in Afghanistan. That's exactly what we're doing. And this article that I'm telling you about is an example of that. What this article demonstrated is you have this guy over there who was also related to, I think, the second in command of all of Afghanistan. So this corrupt family, this guy's related to them. Okay, now.
Family connections.
Right. This guy owns and operates a subcontractor company, okay, that's providing security for our loads of stuff and troops going from when they come into Afghanistan. I'm with the Afghanistan government. I'm here to help you.
This
U.S.
like
government.
Extortion.
It's worse.
Cronyism?
No, worse.
No.
So here's what I'll do. We'll provide security. We'll make sure the Taliban doesn't blow you up, and you pay me. Our stupid government does not investigate anything, and they give literally millions of dollars to this guy. I call him a troll, because that's what he is. He's a troll. To get from here to here, you have to pay me money, or we'll blow you up. Okay. Journalist who does this story, he finds out that not only is this guy a troll, not only is he connected to the government, he's also the Taliban. So now we're paying the Taliban to provide security. Now, if the Taliban is making, and this is just one incident.
Oh, goodness.
This is just one incident of subcontractors making buckets of money off our taxpayers' money to protect.
Well, okay, let me say we can fund the Taliban to protect us in Afghanistan.
Well, it's worse. It's worse. Let me finish this story, though.
Okay.
Okay. Little investigation. This guy, this troll, back when Russia had invaded, he was one of the freedom fighters. Okay. Back then, the Taliban wasn't the Taliban. When we were supporting them, then they were freedom fighters, and we were supporting them and giving them arms against the Russians and everything. In order to fight a rattlesnake, Russia, we jumped into a pit with pit vipers, and we sided with people that were probably even worse than the Russians were. That's what we did. And see, that's the problem with our foreign policy. In Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Vietnam, we don't learn our lesson. When you stick your nose into other people's business and you commit troops and money and you really don't know what you're doing, it has blowback. And we do not learn from our history. This country, I call this country the Gladys Kravitz of the world. For those of you who remember out there, Gladys Kravitz, the show Bewitched that was on, remember that?
Yes.
Okay, the nosy neighbor who was constantly, had her nose sticking in everybody's business, bewitched his business, and her husband was starving to death and house was falling down. That's us. Our country, our foreign policy is to stick our nose in everybody's business when we don't really know what we're doing, and then years later we suffer, or currently we're suffering the blowback from that. Here we are. The problem with that is it's not just money that we're committing over there. We're committing our troops' lives. And
men and women
right.
that, went to the army to serve their country, and essentially, I mean, it's kind of like their lives are fodder for the Taliban to get a kickback.
Right. I mean, oh, sure, I'll work with you. Since you got a tank pointed at me, United States government, we're with you. Yeah, we'll train with you. So we leave them all kinds of guns, all kinds of stuff. Okay, if you see the Taliban, fight for us. No problem. See ya. Hello, Taliban? I got an M16, I got a 81 millimeter mortar. I'll save you real cheap. And the Government Accountability Office has even determined this to the point. So what we're doing in Afghanistan is we're going to end up putting millions and millions of dollars over there. And what's worse is committing troops' lives. Okay,
well, we're bleeding the country economically. We're bleeding the country literally.
Yeah, a whole generation of young people are going to be, and we're going to end up just sifting through the sand over there for what?